Hi, welcome. My name's Todd Graff, winemaker general manager for Frank Family, and I'm here with Phil Sunseri at his house out here in Childs Valley. Phil is the operator, owner of Sunseri Vineyards, where we're at, historically farmed by William and Joseph Nichelini. So the Nichelini family who homesteaded out here generations ago, and I'll let Phil get into the details as we go. And we're out here in Childs Valley, home of our Zinfandels. We do a Childs Valley Appalachian Zinfandel that we'll talk about shortly, and the majority foundation of our Napa Valley blend comes from this ranch also. So welcome, Phil.
Well, thank you, John.
Sure. So why don't you tell us some history? Start from day one of the Nichelini family and get us up to speed.
Okay. Well, it started with Anton Nichelini in 1884. He came to this property, but Anton came here for a specific reason. One, he was an immigrant. He was winemaking over in Sonoma with the Chevet family, and he had an opportunity to come here because during that period they were offering a homestead property to anyone that would come out here and develop the property. So there was always catches to that. So he came here in 1884, and he started working the land, and he was entitled to 160 acres of land. And through his lifetime, he acquired more and more property because there was other homestead families that were out here, and most of them couldn't be successful in farming, and they moved on. And when they moved on, Anton would either be gifted or would purchase their property. And at the end of Anton's life, he owned almost 640 acres of ground.
Now you're here as the guardian of this property here, and you've named your vineyard blocks after the family members, which is a great history tie-in.
So it's when we originally decided to, my cousin Joe and myself, who Joe inherited the property, and I bought his brother Michael's share of the property. And we started the business. We decided we'd dedicate the vineyard to the A. Nichelini family and their 12 children. And ironically, we had 13 distinguishable blocks of vines. And so we named each of them after the 12 children, and the 13th block was named Anton and Katerina, which happens to be the block that's up on top of the hill on the highest point looking over the property. So Frank family has the distinction of having block 1, which is the William block, and block 8, which is the Catherine block, and eighth born was Catherine, and the firstborn was William. And then more recently, we're growing another 7 acres of Zinfandel, and that is the Mary block, and Frank family will be getting those grapes starting in 2023.
As I said, we use this vineyard out here for our Childs Valley. So this is 100% Nichelini Sunseri Vineyards here, with a little bit of Petit Syrah blended in from our ranch in Capel. Childs Valley, just not enough, just enough Petit Syrah to give it a little color, a little structure, but not enough to turn it into a Petit Syrah. Petit Syrah is pretty strong, so what we usually do with the blend is blend it in. As soon as you can see it's there, we kind of tone it back a little bit, so it's just there to give it a lift more than change it. So this wine is all aged in French oak Burgundian barrels, so a little different, and this has about a 40% new barrel blend into it, and about 60% once used. So just enough to give it some structure again, and some uplift, aromatics, and some depth in the body. So let's talk a little bit about where we're at, Childs Valley. We talked about why Childs Valley, why the family settled here. When I drove out this morning, it was great to see this fog coming through the hills, and it's burnt off now, but there's still this nice cool breeze. Talk about the climate out here in Childs Valley.
Yeah, interesting. The weather in Childs Valley, the valley itself is 800 feet above sea level, and the high peaks are about 1,200 feet. And it's very, very cold, much colder than you would expect the valley of Napa Valley to be. But it's a unique valley in that Childs Valley is not really a valley. It is a drainage of two creeks that both go into the Napa River. One is Sage Creek, which travels at its headwaters here in the middle of the valley and goes out to Lake Hennessy. The other creek is Childs Creek, which starts at its headwaters in the middle of Childs Valley and also goes down Pope Childs Valley Road down to Lake Hennessy. So you have this area that has no hills to block off the winds. So you get this natural circulation every day in the afternoons, or even like right now, it's at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and we have this beautiful cold breeze that circulates through Childs Valley, especially this portion of Childs Valley, and really makes it unique for growing grapes because you also get the coastal influence. We get fog in the morning. It cools down quite a bit, and then in the afternoon it warms up.
As a winemaker who purchases grapes, it's getting more and more difficult for us to find great Zinfandel sourcing as the main Napa Valley replants. It's becoming more Cabernet centric, and Cabernet's being more popular, so people aren't replanting in Zin as much as they used to in past generations. So it's great to have this here, but we do a Napa Valley blend also that the foundation is this vineyard here, out here in Childs, but we have since planted some acreage in our Capel Valley vineyard also, and we do buy some fruit from other growers, most notably the Titus family. They have some vineyards in St. Helena, Peter Nissen's vineyard in Calistoga, so more northern Napa Valley. Those vineyards were both planted in the 50s and still growing strong, so it's fun to put a blend together of multiple vineyards with, again, a little splash of Petit Syrah from our vineyard in Capel. This is all, again, aged in French oak, about 33% new every harvest, with 2/3 used barrels. But again, we're trying to make a wine that really represents the old school Zinfandel. It's not the darkest, maybe. It doesn't look like Petit Syrah. We want it to look like Zin. Zin is not the darkest colored grape out there at all. It used to have that history because what we were talking about, the Petit Syrah blended in all the time, or other varieties too, Alicante Boucher and some Movedra, these great field blends. So we do, and we're not trying to make the highest alcohol or the most jammy. We really want this nice bright fruit, get that traditional pepper aromatics there, and really drink really well with your meal. So, cheers.